First of all, could I just kind of get some basic background? Where in the diocese you kind of grew up, and maybe a little family dynamic background?
Yeah, so I grew up in Evansville. I went to Good Shepherd growing up, to grade school there, and then high school at Memorial, so east side of Evansville. And then my family was me. I've got an older sister, Lacey, and then two younger brothers, Nick and Paul, and then my mom and dad. So family of six.
And so, did you grow up cradle Catholic? Was that a part of your life from when you were born? I guess just a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I grew up cradle Catholic, baptized at Good Shepherd. Most of my family went to Good Shepherd, and so growing up, basically everyone I knew, I went to church and school with, cousins and friends. Everybody was there, and so a lot of our life was just kind of centered around the parish, sort of the social groups my parents were in, and family. All of that kind of revolved around the church, and so Sunday Mass we went to every week. Stations of the Cross during Lent. My dad had a group he met with every Saturday morning for the rosary and breakfast, and so all of that was just kind of part of the rhythm of our life growing up, being involved with the parish there.
I guess when did the idea of priesthood kind of start to enter the picture? Was it when you were younger, kind of older, middle school, high school? Just kind of when that maybe started to be seriously considered as an option for you?
I think so. I guess probably when I was pretty young, even probably before grade school. I guess there was something about the priesthood that I thought was kind of fascinating. I know I would force my family to. I would play Mass, and so I would force them all to come in and bear with me through that. And that was even before like kindergarten. I'd have the little table set up in the living room, and little bread cut out of the bunny bread we had at home, and go play the whole Mass. And so there was this idea that I guess I was sort of fascinated by it even then. But really something like a really serious kind of consideration of it probably wasn't until I was in probably high school. Around the time I was in high school is when the idea of it as something that I might actually do, like a real possibility for my life, it's probably around then.
Were there any adults, either your parents or clergy maybe, who kind of had a big impact, or that you kind of leaned on as had been discerning before you had entered seminary?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely just the sort of the witness of family members. I think some really strong family members in the faith, even like my grandma, my grandparents, and my parents. Just seeing how the faith impacted their life. That was definitely one sort of really stable thing that I probably took for granted, as it kind of impacted my vocation. But I guess sort of some of the people that really some of the priests that really inspired me. I know in high school, my last year of high school when I was a senior, Father Tyler Tinbarge came, and he was assigned as chaplain there. And that was during his first year of priesthood, I think. And so he was freshly ordained. He was so full of energy, like he always is. And he just had this joy about him. He would come and preach at Mass, or he would come to the football games. You could tell that he really cared about the students, and he loved Christ. And when I saw that, I thought, well, that's something that I would also want to do, like live my life in such a joyful way, and in a way that's helping others. So he was definitely a big impact when I was in high school, and when I was in college, when I was really kind of really thinking about seminary, there was a chaplain there named Father Eugene. And he was the first priest that I really got to know sort of as a person. Growing up, I knew the priest from back home, but in college, the chaplain was always around the Newman house where I'd hang out. And so I got to know him not just as a priest, but as a person. And so seeing the sort of human side of him, that really helped me to see that, well, I could do that too. That's not, he's just a normal person. I'm just a normal person. And if this is something that God called him to, he could just as well be calling me to it.
Talk a little bit about, you mentioned college, but just after high school, what the next steps were, and then at what point you decided to officially go to seminary?
Yeah, so my last year of high school when Father Tyler came, I guess I really was thinking a lot about going to college seminary. And at one point I kind of decided, like, this is what I think I'm supposed to do. But doing that meant that I had to talk to Father Tyler, and it meant that other people would, I'd kind of stick out, and I did not want that. That was like a nightmare for me. Just thinking about doing that, it gave me so much anxiety. I was like, okay, well, no, we'll just wait, And so I decided that, well, I'll go to college, I'll get a degree. If the priesthood is still something I'm thinking about at the end of college, then I'll actually talk to someone about it. And so I kind of made that agreement with myself, And I went off to college, and once I got there, I got involved with the church. Me and my roommate would go to Mass on Sundays. A lot of my friends were Catholic, and so we kind of would do that on Sundays, go together. During the week, we might go to Mass a couple times. But eventually, I kind of got plugged into a Bible study there, and they had focused missionaries. And those missionaries kept inviting me to all kinds of stuff. And at first, I was like, no, you guys are kind of weird. I'm not about to go to this. But they just kept asking me. And eventually I went. And I realized that, like, what I had seen in Father Tyler earlier, the sort of, the joy that he had, these missionaries had the same thing. They were really on fire. And that was inspiring. And so I just started spending more time around them, because it was magnetic. You could see how much they loved Christ, and that drew me in. And so during college, the missionaries there and Father Eugene, the chaplain, they really encouraged me to grow in my spiritual life. And so I started praying every day, making a holy hour, praying the rosary, just hanging out with other people that were also striving to grow in their faith, attending Bible studies, leading a Bible study eventually. And so the more that I kind of got involved in my faith, the more that I grew in it, the more that I still heard God calling me to the priesthood. And it was something that I would think about every day, multiple times a day. Like, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should go to seminary. And so it just kind of built up throughout all of college, this feeling that I'm really being called, was just building. But at the same time, that sort of fear that had kept me from going in high school when I first kind of had thought about it, that fear was sort of building at the same time. And so there was this sort of anxiety in me that just I couldn't overcome at that point. And that just kind of kept building. The fear and the call, they sort of kept building all the way through college, until finally my last semester of college, I was home over Christmas break, and I was at Mass here at St. John Daylight in town, and the collect, the opening prayer at the Mass, usually it's not like I listen to it all the time, but for some reason I was really listening that day. But the prayer, it was asking that that we might see what must be done and have the courage to do what we have seen. And as soon as I heard that, I knew what that meant in my life. I knew, like, in that moment, God was speaking to me through that prayer. And so I went home, and I decided that I'd email Father Tyler, finally, after like 5 years of discerning on my own without talking to anyone. I thought, well, finally I'll talk to him. And so I went and emailed him, immediately regretted it, went back to the Adoration Chapel and just sat there in terror. I was like, what have I done with my life? It's over. Eventually I got through that. I guess after that, I went and met with Father Tyler, and finally talked to someone about what God had been putting on my heart for years now. And there was so much fear leading up to meeting him. But once I met with him and talked about it, I just felt so relieved. I remember leaving that meeting and driving back to Murray State, where I went to college. And on the interstate, there was just this overwhelming sense of peace, like something I hadn't felt in those 4 years previously. And I just broke down crying on the interstate, just with so much, like, such joy and such peace from finally kind of giving in to God's plan for my life, taking that step.
Was it helpful, do you think, having been to school and having Father Tyler there? Do you think that was helpful as you navigated that, started talking to him, and then discerning seminary? Was it helpful to have known him versus maybe a vocation instructor who maybe you hadn't been as familiar with, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was definitely helpful because I knew him from my time in high school when he was a chaplain there. And I also knew him from coming back to Evansville over breaks, and I would go to the Monday night Mass at Sacred Heart. And so he'd always go out of his way and talk to me there. And so I knew him, and I was, if it had been someone that I didn't know, it would have been even more difficult to kind of work up the courage to go and talk to him. And so, just knowing him was definitely helpful to kind of lead me to that point where I actually went and talked to him.
I know you're at St. Minor now. Is that where you've been throughout your seminary? Is that
Yeah.
the place? Okay. And I don't know if you had knowledge or expectations of what seminary would be like, but if so, has it been close to what you expected or completely different? Can you just talk about expectations versus reality?
Yeah, I think it's probably completely different than than what I thought it would be. I guess in my mind, going in, I thought, I had some kind of a preconceived idea of what a seminarian would be, and I was very worried that they were all going to be kind of weird, and they were going to be very, like, unsociable and sort of just so focused on prayer and sort of keep to themselves. So I was really worried about that. And I also thought that seminary would just be very, like, almost like a monastic life. Like, it would be very strict. You would wake up at this time and you would have to pray at this time, and everyone is like, your life would just be completely sort of scheduled. And that's actually not how, all of that wasn't completely true. I got there, and it took me a while to adjust to seminary life, but it was so different from what I expected. I got there, and the guys were normal for the most part, and they were all striving to grow in holiness, and and they genuinely cared about each other. And that's a kind of community I hadn't really experienced before. People would just kind of compliment me or like say something nice in passing in the hallway, and I was not used to. I mean, I'd never been in a place where people did that. But yeah, I guess it was just it was just very different from what I expected. We hang out on the weekends. We watch movies in the evenings. We go down to the Unstable and have beer and pizza. So it's just like normal guys. And so that was a really kind of a relief when I got there. And it ended up, seminary is not the monastery. We do have scheduled prayer times, and we have classes that we have to go to. But St. Meinhard's really good about giving you sort of a level of freedom. I mean, they recognize that you're an adult, and that when you're a priest, you're going to be sort of in charge of your own schedule. And so they give you a lot of freedom to sort of structure your life and do what you need to do to thrive. And so that was also kind of a relief when I got there.
You mentioned your assignment this year, but I know it's normal, I think, for every year to go to a parish here locally, even over the summer, if you're in town. So have those been beneficial? And if so, can you talk a little bit about the ways that being at different parishes in the diocese with parish priests has helped you as you discern priesthood?
Yeah. So each place that I've been, or like each parish I've been at, or assignment that I've had over the summer has helped me grow, but all of them have been so different. I mean, each in like kind of their unique way. So my first assignment was at Precious Blood in Jasper with Father Brian Emick. And I guess in that summer, a lot of the priests I'd known beforehand were really extroverted. They were kind of full of energy. They were bouncing all around. And I'm not like that. I'm an introvert by nature. And so one of the concerns I had was that, well, can I be a good priest if I'm introverted, if I'm not kind of a natural extrovert? And being with Father Brian that summer, who is also an introvert by nature, kind of gave me the assurance that I needed that I could, because he is such a good priest, and in a different way than a really kind of extroverted, bubbly, charismatic kind of priest would be. His people really loved him, and he loved the parish. And so being able to relate to him kind of in that way, it gave me the confidence that, well, I can be a priest. Like, my personality, like God will use it however he needs to. Like, that's no barrier for the priesthood. Like, in some way it showed me how diverse priests are. And so that was something really beautiful from that summer. Next year I was at St. Boniface in Evansville, St. Boniface, Sacred Heart, St. Agnes. And as much as I didn't want to go to the west side because it's the west side, I absolutely loved my time there. I felt like I really got to know the parishioners there, and they were just so warm and so welcoming. And it's very different from Jasper. That parish was. But it was a place where I felt like I really got to see myself kind of in ministry for the first time. I would visit some of the shut-ins and the sick and bring communion to them. I got to know the families there pretty well, some of them, and so it was kind of the first time that I saw myself in a sort of a semi-priest role. And that was something that I really needed at that time, to see that, like, this is something I can do. And so that summer was great. And then the other parish I've been at is St. Ben's, which was only for about a month because I was over in Rome doing a program the first half of the summer. But it was such a great experience to kind of be at the cathedral and to see sort of that hub of the diocese, but also to be with Father Alex, and to see kind of how he, the skill he has in being a pastor, and sort of gain some wisdom from him. And so that was, St. Ben's was also definitely a good assignment.
You had mentioned the discernment through college to get to seminary. Since you've entered seminary, have you noticed changes personally with your faith life? And can you talk a little bit about if there's been like sudden growth you've noticed, or if it's been gradual over time?
Yeah, I think, I guess there's been kind of a subtle growth sort of constantly, I think. And then at times there have also been sort of like sudden moments where like, that really hit you. I think maybe some like way that I've kind of noticed spiritual growth subtly over the whole time is that I went into seminary with a view of what Catholicism was and what the church was. There was when I look back at it now, it was really kind of small and narrow. It was the church that I knew from growing up, and the church that I had experienced up to that point. But it wasn't the full kind of breadth of the church. And so as I've gone through seminary, I've had so many experiences that have kind of just constantly widened that view of what the church is, of what our, like the beauty of our faith, of how big the church is. And that's happened in so many ways. I mean, just being at the different parishes in the diocese and seeing how people here in Southern Indiana live out their faith in different ways. That's definitely been a way. I got the opportunity to go down to Guatemala with our school, and seeing how different Catholicism can look, but how at the heart it's still the same. And being over in Rome for a month one summer, to kind of see the universal church, to see people from Asia and Africa and Europe, all there, and all of them feel at home in the church. To see like how big the church is, I guess has definitely affected my kind of spirituality in a way. To see that, I don't know exactly how to put it into words, but kind of just how much bigger everything is than myself. So that's definitely been like kind of a subtle growth. If I had to point to maybe one moment of like kind of like a sudden growth, last summer I did CPE, which is basically a hospital chaplaincy for a summer. And I did that in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which I had no connection to beforehand. And so those 10 weeks of chaplaincy was definitely like a very big period of spiritual growth. Because in the hospital, the hospital is almost like a microcosm of the whole world. I mean, everybody ends up in the hospital. Whether you're rich or poor, whatever ethnicity you are. The hospital has some of the happiest moments, like new mothers giving birth, you have new parents, but also the saddest moments, like unexpected deaths or tragedies. And so dealing with those situations, just kind of being thrown into that, just required me to kind of lean totally on Christ in those moments, and to trust that he was going to work through me whenever I was encountering anyone there. And so that summer, I think, definitely saw so much kind of like human and personal growth, but also spiritual growth, just in my ability to kind of like trust that the Lord's gonna do what he needs to do, and work through me in some way, even if I'm not perfect and I'm broken and I put my foot in my mouth. he'll still somehow use that for his good.
Has it kind of set in that diaconate is ordination as close as it is, and if it has, kind of what you're looking forward to most about it?
Yeah, it has definitely set in now. It kind of took me a while to get to the point where I was like, oh, this is really happening. But just now I picked up my invitations for it. And so that means it's really real now. There's invitations. And so it definitely has kind of shifted to we're really in the home stretch now to diaconate ordination. Yeah, and I guess there's all kinds of different kind of thoughts and kind of stuff that come up. In one sense, there's just so much gratitude for everyone that has formed me and gotten me to this point, all throughout my life, not just seminary formation, but just so much gratitude for the people in the diocese, for the parishes I've been at, for St. Meinrad and the monks there, my friends and my entire family for because they have truly been the ones that have supported me and formed me along this whole time. So just there's just sort of this sense of gratitude for that, and also just excitement to kind of you're in seminary for I guess I've been in for 5 years now, and you're studying to be ordained a priest eventually. That's the end goal. And deacon ordination is sort of the last step to that. With deacon ordination, you make your promise of celibacy, and you promise to pray the liturgy of the hours every day, and you become a cleric in the church. And so all of that is a big step, and sort of a real commitment. And so that's just very exciting to kind of be reaching the end goal, which is priesthood ordination, and to be able to kind of be so much closer to this place where I'll be able to kind of be in the diocese permanently, and to serve the church here and to serve God's people here.
Having a year in the diaconate, working with the pastor here in the diocese, do you feel like that? I know you can't speak to what you don't know, but do you think that will be beneficial to you as you look towards your priesthood ordination the year after? Yeah,
I definitely think so. One of the things that I've kind of realized the longer I've been in seminary, the more that I realize I don't know. And so I guess that's somewhat alarming in a way, but also I realize that no matter how long I'm in seminary, I'm never going to know everything that I need to know to be a priest, and to be able to be in a parish with a pastor for a year, kind of as a deacon, but to kind of learn from the pastor and learn what kind of what all the wisdom that he's kind of gained over his however many years in the priesthood, to be able to learn from that, I have no doubt will be kind of an invaluable experience.